In the meantime, we have lots of other calls. Are you ready to start taking some, SR?
Yeah, let's grab some.
All right, cool. Let's start with Charles. Hello, Charles. You are on the Atheist Experience. What would you like to talk about today?
Hey, how you doing? I wanted to talk about the good. I wanted to talk about the science connected to the Big Bang that's in Genesis.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, like what?
Yeah. Let's hear it.
Okay. First, I want to say, as regarding your soul, I mean, everything has a soul, right? It's the principle of life is a soul. So I'm not sure what you mean prove you have a soul. We all have energy. And when your body dies, we can actually witness the energy leave the body. So not quite sure what you mean prove you have a soul. We all have energy in us.
You're going to need to pick a lane, Charles. You're going to need to pick a lane because both of those will take up an entire call. So you can either have a conversation with me about the soul, which I'm more than welcome, or you can talk about the science in Genesis. I'm going to leave it up to you. But whichever topic you pick up on after I finish this sentence, that's where we're going. Go.
All right, let's move on to Genesis then. Okay.
Your call.
First of all, it was a priest that theorized the Big Bang, right? And so when you look in the Bible, the first thing that God says, right, is let there be light, right? Which we know from an explosion, that's exactly what you see. And as you go into Genesis, you have to understand it was a vision, right? It was a man seeing a vision, and he described what he saw in an era.
Wait, where are you getting that from?
Yeah.
Where are you getting that from? Where are you getting that the entirety of Genesis was a man seeing a vision?
Because a man wrote it, right? Did God write it? Do you think God
more than one? I'd say
wrote
more than one. Like, I don't know if you know about the documentary hypothesis, but there's actually two stories that are sort of parallel but disparate in Genesis.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be a man writing it. It's likely several.
Well, it's several interpretations, perhaps, right? What they think, right? But they're still pretty similar. There's things that are out of order a bit in different lanes, but it's the point.
You don't think that's a problem, Charles?
What happened?
You don't think it's a problem that two different interpretations put things in radically different spots?
It's also contrary to if you were going to go about it being a vision that one person has, that you would have to just admit that it wasn't a vision.
Genesis 1. So I think Genesis 1 is a layout of exactly how it happened, and I think the other ones are reiterations explaining the reasoning for it, and right, like it goes more.
What's your reasoning founded on for that? Like, what's your reasoning founded on for that though? You said like, so this is what you think.
Sure.
What's your reasoning founded on aside from like so sort of like subjective speculation?
Well, because Genesis 1 is more of a layout about how things happen, whereas the other Genesis are more focused on humanity and the reasons for it happening, right? Like it says, for instance, it says that there was nobody to till the ground, so God made a mist go up from the ground and it rained. Right there, he's talking about evaporation causing precipitation, right? These are things they didn't know. So it's explaining it in a different order to reiterate what it already said, but going more in depth about...
Before you keep going, I don't think that you fully understood what my question was initially. You're explaining what your interpretation of it is, right? So what you're saying is that I, Charles, have read this verse where perhaps somebody witnessed evaporation and then described it as and attributed it to God, and I, Charles, think yada yada yada. But your initial statement for why this was a statement of fact and why the Big Bang is in fact in Genesis was that you believe that it was some sort of divine vision, at least Genesis 1, because you've already admitted that other components of Genesis had to unmistakably be written by a different hand. So what is it that connects your assertion that this person had some sort of divine vision to reality, aside from you reading it, giving your own individual interpretation, and then speculating that that's the case?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Because when we line it up with what we think we know about the Big Bang, Genesis lays it out perfectly. Genesis 1.
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think it does.
Okay, well.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's go through it. So first there's the light, right? Second, there's the firmament. The firmament divides the atmosphere, divides the waters which are under the heavens, the sky, from the waters which were above the heavens, the sky, and it calls the firmament heaven. Right?
We can just pause right there, Charles. Hold on, Charles, because that definitely, if you're saying first there's light, then there's the firmament that divides waters above the heavens and below the heavens. Where did we even get to heavens yet? I thought we just had light. Are you saying that with the light, Genesis is saying that like space it was also created too?
So the light was the bang, and from the bang came the rocks, and everything orbited, everything connected, right? So Earth was created through that explosion as we know it. So now
I guess you're skipping over a lot when you say that. Well, you're skipping over quite a lot when it comes to an actual when it comes to an actual understanding in science. We don't just say, hey, like the earth formed and then we move on with it, right? Like we go through a process of trying to figure out what those individual steps are. And I guess for me, it just kind of seems like in Genesis, what happened is they wrote some stuff down and like a long time passed. And after we did have some good science, we were able to like retcon the Bible to fit this stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But Mars and Jupiter had no relevance to these guys, right? They're talking about Earth. The story is about us. It's not about Mars. It's not about anything else. It's about us, right? So the explosion gave obviously orbit to a lot of different stuff and galaxies, but we're focusing on Earth. We're focusing on us.
Well then how do you explain that there was, plants before the sun if we're going on our focus? Okay. You say it was a vision, like there was plants before the sun in Genesis, right? Like you can see how to somebody like us that would, this kind of falls apart.
The moon and the stars.
Yeah.
Right? So when you get to that point, right? So there's a man witnessing it. So somebody's watching this in a vision and they're describing what they see, right?
Okay.
First is the light. Second is the atmosphere, the firmament, right? Third, they divide the waters on the ground. And as the atmosphere is created, waters evaporate, gases are exploded, there's explosions, everything's a gassy planet, right? And then after the water on the ground separates, right? And it puts days in between these time frames. And that's time, right? Like even the Bible says a day is like 1,000 years to God. So right there it's telling us that it's a significant more amount of time than a day as we know it, right? So it divides the days perfectly in between the time frames. Now after the
perfectly
is evaporated in the sky, perfectly.
I don't think so. You also didn't answer my question about how we explain the plants coming before the sun. And you're back to it being this assertion that it's an individual guy who had a vision. It seems to me that you're retconning it to try to explain it to yourself by saying that, okay, this would make sense if it was some sort of like despotic vision that some dude had. That's the way that I can reconcile it, because if it was this like vision, then all of it doesn't need to make sense. And then I can reconcile how some of this is incredibly inconcordant with reality, as we know it, and look at pieces of it as metaphor and just essentially redefine what time is.
And just ignore all the stuff that we just ignored, right? Like, just this is one of the problems that I have when it comes to people saying there's science in religious books, is because it's a very poor understanding of science and the scientific method as a whole. If what you're saying is we can just kind of arbitrarily fit, statements that we just randomly got right. Like, hey, we learned more about atoms, and this thing that this person said about like multiple little pieces fitting together and making stuff, they were talking about atoms. And it's like, well, I mean, maybe, kind of, sure, but that's not science. That's just kind of walking around in the dark and stumbling into the right thing. That's cool, but it isn't science, right? Does that?
Okay. So
do you see that?
Can I ask you? Okay, but can I ask you, so in accordance with the science of what we think we know about the Big Bang, when we had a gassy planet, what did we require to get rid of all the gas that was on the planet, the carbon monoxide and stuff? What needed to be to get rid of all that?
I'm not 100% positive.
2 feet in front of us, on a gassy planet, what got rid of it? The tree?
What got rid of what?
Yeah, I don't know what you're asking. Are you asking what got rid of the gases on our planet? Because I would say nothing, because we still have a bunch of gases on our planet, right?
So you can't see 2 feet in front of your face, like they theorized would have been.
You're aware that like the air that surrounds us is gas.
All of this stuff?
Right?
Is gas? Shannon, are you sure?
Like
it's not
gas. That's gas.
And carbon monoxide, right? It's invisible gas. It's
Also a gas,
oxygen, right?
right?
Yeah,
And we can see through it.
the point is, see, when you go back, see, you guys are talking about science, but you don't even know that we had a gassy planet. You can't even comprehend what I'm
We
trying.
currently have a gassy planet.
I don't understand.
The planet is gassy as fuck. We are aware of that.
I gotta
be
breathing
honest.
In
the gas on the
I'm
planet.
just thinking about a planet farting now. That's exactly
Sorry,
where my head
bad.
is. No,
you should have had the foresight to realize that was going to happen.
Perfect.
But like
Anyways, if you guys
this is where I'm having some trouble, Charles, is that you're trying to explain to us where the science is in Genesis. And so far as I can tell, what you're saying is that the science is a vision that I'm speculating some guy had where I can retcon whatever it is I know about science into some allegory that I'm drawing to this story. Which I mean, I can do that with a multitude of stories. But that doesn't make what I'm saying true. That's just me sort of romanticizing the story and attempting to fit what I know into it retroactively. Like if you're attempting to prove something to us, your current tack is unsuccessful because you've not introduced how I can see science in Genesis. You're speculating that somebody had a vision, which isn't even in Genesis. You're like, we're already outside of Genesis to begin with. You're saying in order to find the science in Genesis, first you have to speculate something Genesis doesn't even say, that I'm just positing, and then start there.
Somebody wrote Genesis, right? Genesis was written by a man, right?
But Genesis doesn't say it was a vision.
Right.
Genesis doesn't say, this is a vision that I'm describing to you as the attributed author Moses, who will eventually write about my own death. But see, it doesn't, a person wrote it. It wasn't a ghost, most likely. I feel real confident in that. But it never said that it was a vision. And that's what Shannon was pointing out there. And from there, it's just been more and more things that have not been coming to us from Genesis. It's been other things that we've done. Like the reason that we have a good understanding of the Big Bang has to do with like this like amazing picture we took of the microwave radiation background stuff, right? Like there's other things that are going on that you're then pulling back and saying, when it says here, and then the gases and the waters were separated, but you're not actually giving us a reason that that's what those people were saying, right? I mean, I see why you're connecting back to it, but I don't see why we would think that those original texts are actually pointing to the thing you're saying.
Yeah, but the great philosophers and visionaries of history just kind of cleared their mind and put their hand on a piece of paper and it just came out. Like, I can't understand why you're having...
I don't feel like we're having a conversation, Shannon. Do you?
I'm not even sure if I'm in my body anymore because I don't know if you listened to anything that SR was just saying to you. Like, I think you're just waiting to respond. I've enjoyed hearing your thoughts on this. Maybe formulate them a little bit more coherently so that you can connect to what it actually says in the text without having to speculate something the text doesn't even say. And show us the connections that way, because we're several degrees of separation and speculation away right now, and you've not shown us any science in the text. But I'd be interested to continue this conversation at a later date. So I will let you go now, and thank you kindly for the call. And hopefully, Charles, we will have the opportunity to speak again later. Okay? Okay. Have a lovely evening.
Sounds wrapped up to me.